Back in 1981, I had the American dream, the beautiful wife, the house in the suburbs, and a beautiful 6-year-old son. And one day I went to work, kissed my son goodbye, and never saw him again. In 2 weeks, I became the parent of a murdered child, and I'll always be the parent of a murdered child. I still have the heartache. I still have the rage. I waited years for justice. I know what it's like to be there waiting for some answers. And over those years, I learned how to do one thing really well, and that's how to catch these bastards and bring them back to justice. I become a manhunter. I'm out there looking for bad guys.
Hi guys, welcome back to New Zealand Mysteries. This is TJ. I am betting that some of you know the guy in that video. That is John Walsh. His face and voice are quite recognisable around the world. He was the host of America's Most Wanted for many years. That was a clip from his show On the Hunt with John Walsh, and I know he has gone on to do another program or two. I think that some of you know that he had a son that was murdered, obviously, but I don't know if any of you know the story of what happened to his son Adam Walsh. So that's the story we're going to look into today. Before we get started, if you want to have a look at our Facebook page and our website, there is links below in the description box. You will find links to all sorts in there, all the sources that we've used, and also my email. It would be nice if you could support the channel. If you like, press like, and if you dislike, I guess. But it would be great if you could subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can get notified when we drop some new stories. I would like to apologise for the quality of the video and audio, and myself really. I'm still figuring out how this works, and I'm pretty new, and I don't have the best equipment, so I'm just working with what I got. If you'd like to support the channel and donate, there is also links in the description box below to buymeacoffee.com, which you can for $3. I love my coffee. And also to patreon.com. Let's get going. So this is a picture of the gorgeous 6.5-year-old boy that went missing, Adam Walsh. It's a gorgeous picture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a sort of overview of the case, and then I've got a couple of clips to show as well. But for some background, on the afternoon of 27th July 1981, Adam's mother, Reve, took him shopping with her to the Hollywood Mall in Hollywood, Florida. Hollywood is a city in Broward County, Florida, between Fort Lauderdale and Miami. Now, Reve and Adam went together to the department store Sears, which is quite popular in America. We don't have here in New Zealand. Reve intended to inquire about a lamp which was on sale, and when they got into the department store, going past the toy section, never do that with kids, there was a group of boys playing and watching this new thing out called an Atari 2600, and they were playing it on a TV. Now, back in 1981, this was huge. Video games had just come out, and it was mesmerizing for kids, and it was exciting, and yeah, you can imagine. Computer games were just all the rage. Adam begged his mum to let him stay and watch these boys play the game. And I can remember the exact same thing with my kids. We've been in the store, and the lights and everything going on has mesmerised them, and they've begged me to please stay here, Mum, and play or watch these games. I don't want to go shopping with boring old Mum. So his mum let him stay, and she could actually see him. She was only going 3 aisles sort of away. So Reve completed her business in the lamp department. It was only about 10 minutes later, around 12:15 p.m. She said she returned to find that Adam and the other boys had disappeared. She searched absolutely everywhere, frantic, obviously, being a mum. I know, I've lost my kids occasionally, but she searched everywhere, in the car park, in the store, in the mall, you name it. So she searched everywhere. There was no cell phones at that time, so she was going out to the payphone to ring the police. I couldn't imagine how Reve felt knowing that she couldn't find her boys. And she looked for him for about 40 to 45 minutes before calling the Hollywood police. On the morning of August 11th, John and Reve appeared on national television saying they still hoped that Adam was alive. A $100,000 reward had been posted for his safe return. And I must give you a warning at this stage. As I go on, there are some details that aren't nice. If you're squeamish or if you don't like details about things done to children, then I suggest you stop right now and go and watch something else. So, August the 11th, John and Reve appeared on this national TV show. What they didn't know is that the day before, on the 10th of August, a severed head was found in a drainage canal alongside the Florida Turnpike near Vero Beach, which is almost about 130 miles from Hollywood. And soon after, the recovered remains were identified as Adam's. The coroner ruled that the cause of Adam's death was asphyxiation. The state of remains suggested Adam had died several days before the discovery of his head, and the rest of his body was never recovered. John and Reve personally believed that the Hollywood Police Department botched the treatment of Adam's disappearance. First, the missing persons investigation, and then the investigation into his murder. And we'll hear John speak about this very shortly. This ugly mug is Otis Toole. After some investigation, police eventually concluded that Adam was abducted by a drifter named Otis Toole near the front exterior of Sears that afternoon after being instructed to leave by a security guard. According to Toole, he lured him into his 1971 Cadillac with a damaged right bumper with promises of toys and candy, then proceeded to drive north on Interstate 95 toward his home in Jacksonville, Florida. He said Adam at first was docile and compliant, but began to panic as they drove on. Toole said he punched him in the face, but as this just made the situation worse, he then walloped him unconscious. When Toole realised Adam was still breathing, he strangled him to death with a seatbelt. In 1983, investigators lifted bloodstained carpet from his car, but DNA testing then was not as advanced as it is now, of course, and investigators could not tell if the blood was Adam's. It is reported that when a detective assigned to the case in 1994 went to order DNA testing on the bloodstained carpet from that car, the carpeting and the car itself were found to be missing. Toole repeatedly confessed and then retracted accounts of his involvement. Toole was never charged in Adam's case, although he provided seemingly accurate descriptions as to how he committed the crime. Several witnesses also placed him in the Hollywood area in the days leading up to Adam's disappearance. In September 1996, he died in prison, aged 49, of psoriasis, while serving a life sentence for other crimes. Before we move on, we're just going to watch a couple of clips about the disappearance, and this is from Zenial Hipsterburn that put together this.
1981, Walsh's wife Reve and their 6-year-old son Adam were at this Sears store in the Hollywood Mall. Reve let Adam watch a group of older boys play video games while she was 3 aisles away shopping for a lamp. When she returned about 5 to 10 minutes later, Adam was nowhere to be found.
Literally thousands of posters just like these are being distributed all over Florida.
The Walshes launched what's still considered today Florida's largest search for a missing child.
He's our only child. He's a beautiful little boy, and We just want them back more than anything.
I just want that person to know that we want to help them as well as Adam.
One moment, Adam is playing video games at a Sears store. The next minute, he's gone, vanished. There were shoppers all around, even a security guard. It was the middle of the day, yet no one really saw much of anything. The sun went down, the store closed, and Adam was nowhere to be found.
We're the parents of Adam Walsh, who's been missing since yesterday noon from the Hollywood Sears Mall on Hollywood Boulevard. 6.5 years ago.
Reve Walsh.
We'd appreciate anyone with any information about him or have seen him or think they saw him to please call the Hollywood police.
I am prepared to offer a substantial reward for any information leading to the safe giving up of Adam, and to any of the people out there that might be holding Adam. We are prepared to negotiate ourselves with them for a safe release of Adam.
Police were baffled. How could a little boy disappear from a crowded store in the middle of the day? The police station just across the street.
So going back to this ugly bastard, Tool. So Tool repeatedly confessed and then retracted accounts of his involvement. Tool was never charged in Adam's case, I think we said. After he died, his niece told John that he made a deathbed confession to Adam's murder. His confession was viewed as unreliable since he confessed to or implicated himself in many different homicides. In 1997, Hollywood Police Chief Rick Stone conducted an exhaustive review of Adam's case. Although the crime happened 16 years before the time of his review, he provided an analysis of the evidence, including reviewing taped interrogations of Toole. Stone says his review found evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that Toole murdered Adam.
For 27 years, we've been asking, who could take a 6-year-old boy and murder him and decapitate him? Who? We needed to know. We needed to know. And today we know. The not knowing has been a torture, but that journey's over. And a lot of horrible memories in this police department, looking for that little boy. And now I think it's only fitting that it ends here in this police department. And there are a lot of good people here today. I always, for years, I tried to convince myself that justice delayed was not justice denied. And I don't know how you've done it for all these years, but we're blessed with these 3 beautiful children. That little girl right there, that big girl, probably saved our lives because she was born a year after Adam, when we were spiraling into hell. And those 2 boys are a blessing too. We're lucky to have them. And Reve and I have had some very, very rough and rocky times. But you always never lost focus of who the real victim was. You never lost focus. You never didn't drive this train, Reve. But that little boy was the real victim. There's a lot of people to thank. And Chad Wagner, this chief right here, I've been through several chiefs. Both of us have. We've been through several detectives.
So if you want to watch more of that, I found this on Republican Ranting on Facebook. Just to throw a curveball in the story though, Everyone in the true crime industry anyway, or in the true crime fan, will know this guy is Jeffrey Dahmer, a serial killer. And in 2007, allegations earned widespread publicity that Jeffrey Dahmer, arrested in Wisconsin in 1991 after killing more than a dozen men and boys, was also named as a suspect in Adam's murder. Lionel Dahmer, his father, called the America's Most Wanted hotline not too long after his son's arrest. He said that while his son was never convicted for it, he believed his son was a pedophile. He was living in Miami Beach at the time, and 2 eyewitnesses placed him at the mall on the day Adam was abducted. One claimed to have seen a strange man walking into the toy department. The other said that he saw a young blonde man with a protruding chin throw a struggling child into a blue van and speed off. Both witnesses recognised the man they had seen as Jeffrey Dahmer when pictures of him were released in the newspapers after his arrest. Reports showed that the delivery shop where he worked had a blue van at the time. We know that he preyed on young men and boys, the youngest being 8 years older than Adam. And his MO included severing his victims' heads. Although when interviewed about Adam in 1992, he repeatedly denied involvement in the crime, and he stated, "I've told you everything, how I killed them, how I cooked them, how I ate them, who I ate. Why wouldn't I tell you if I did someone else?" So after this rumour surfaced, John Walsh stated that he had seen no evidence linking Adam's abduction and murder to Jeffrey Dahmer, and it was dismissed. Now, John Walsh and his wife, Reve, went on to do some absolutely amazing things for missing children. Absolutely did awesome things. They're awesome people. Now, on December 16 in 2008, Hollywood, Florida Police Chief Wagner, a friend of John's, announced with him present that the case was now closed. An external review of the case had been conducted, and police announced after the release of a book by John Walsh that they were satisfied that Toole was the murderer. Now, this book was called Tears of Rage, From Grieving Father to Crusader for Justice, the untold story of Adam Walsh. A television film, Adam, was made, and it premiered on October the 10th, 1983. The film was based on Walsh's kidnapping and murder and attracted 38 million viewers. That is insane. On its first airing. Each of its 3 broadcasts in 1983, 1984 and 1985 were followed by pictures and descriptions of missing children. A hotline was also created to take calls. The pictures and hotline were ultimately credited with finding a number of missing children. 13 of the 55 children shown in the 1983 broadcast were located. What an amazing thing that they've done, and what the results, how awesome. 13 out of 55. Absolutely amazing. There was some other amazing things that Reve and John did. In 1984, the US Congress passed the Missing Children's Assistance Act, owing in part to the advocacy of the Walshes and other parents of missing children. It allowed the formation of the National Centre for Missing and Exploited Children, which we all know is an amazing centre in the US who does amazing work on behalf of missing children. The Code Adam program for helping lost children in department stores is named in Adam's memory. And the US Congress passed the Adam Walsh Child Protection and Safety Act on July 25, 2006, and President Bush signed it into law on July 27th. The signing ceremony took place on the south lawn of the White House, attended by John and Reve. I'm going to now play a video of John going over a few details, and we'll watch that.
Our few
Greater advocates for the missing than John Walsh. He is the co-founder of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, a project that grew from unimaginable loss. John, thank you so much for being here. It's such an honor to host this program with you and, of course, with Callahan. Your life's work began with the loss of your son, Adam. Take us back to that day. It's been 36 years.
Well, it was July 27th, 1981. I kissed Adam goodbye. He was 6.5 years old at the time, our only son. I was working on the project of my business career, so excited. Reve and I, that's my wife, we're still married after 45 years, still married.
Wow.
Had 3 children since then, but Adam was our first and only. And we had the American dream. We had the beautiful home in Little Hollywood, Florida, near Fort Lauderdale. I had 3 business partners. We were building that $26 million hotel, and I was the happiest guy around. And I kissed Adam goodbye that morning and never saw him again.
So your wife took him to a Sears department store. She lets him go and take a look at some video games. She's browsing, and all of a sudden, chaos.
Well, she was, I say she was the most dedicated mother. She wouldn't let Adam ride his bike on the street or sidewalk, only in the driveway. Brought him to private school every day, picked him up. So we called him the little gentleman. I had taken this little boy all over the world with me. I was traveled all the time. And she took him to the store that day. In 1981, video games were brand new. So 2 black boys, about 12, 13 years old, were playing 2 Argentine boys who barely spoke English. Adam was mesmerized by that. Toy department in Sears. Asked his mom, can I stay here and watch him? She said, I'm going. She wasn't browsing. She said, I'm going 3 aisles away.
Okay.
I'll see the top of your head. I'll be right back. Now, this is 1981. And the little boys are trying to stretch out at 6.5 years old. 3 minutes, police estimate. She came back. She couldn't see the top of his head. She asked for help. In those days, Sears store paid personnel part-time, security people part-time. And there was a 17-year-old security guard, untrained that day, who in that 3-minute period came upon the boys arguing and said, you black boys out this door, you white boys out this door. When Reve came back, they refused to tell her that they had ordered Adam out of the store because they thought that there would be lawsuit problems or whatever. The Hollywood police never found, we never knew that for 27 years. So Reve went, and they would not even announce Adam over the store intercom. They went, he's around somewhere, he'll find him. That's how bad it was in 81.
That shocks me that they wouldn't even page him over the loudspeaker. What assholes, man. I don't care whether it was 1981 or 2100. What a simple request from a frantic mother, and they couldn't even do that. Had to give my input there.
Raced up from my office in Miami. Again, Hollywood is in Fort Lauderdale. It took 45 minutes for a black and white uniformed policeman to get there. There were no cell phones in those days. And the police station was across the street. So they didn't take missing children very serious. And when I arrived, Reve was very, so upset. She had been to the payphone 100 times, been out to the car, been inside. And I asked the cop, well, where's the SWAT team? Where are you looking for this boy? There wasn't anybody. He looked at me and he said, hey, cowboy, slow down here. Don't like your attitude. Most kids walk home or they run away. I went, this is a 6.5-year-old boy. And how could you be so arrogant as to believe that this little boy knows his way home? We live 5 miles from here. He's never walked anywhere in his life. I want a detective here. I want to talk to your boss. I'm a member of this community. I support law enforcement. I know the mayor. You should be looking for this boy. Where the hell is the cavalry? I realize...
It makes you think that had John and Reve been so forceful in telling the police department, get your asses into gear, basically, whether they'd got up and off their asses and done anything at all, it appears that John pushing them got some action.
From day one, they weren't doing the job. They had never had a missing child case. Nobody was helping us. Myself and one of my partners from Texas went and never left that police department for 2 weeks. We stayed in and out of there, went home to shower, set up our own phone tap on our phone in case somebody called the house. It was a nightmare, that search.
It was a nightmare, that search, and sadly we know there was a tragic way that Adam's life ended. But since that time, so much has changed. And now, if a child is reported missing, in many cases, there is an instantaneous reaction.
And there wasn't back then. There were cops who said, well, depending on the age of the kid, we're going to wait 24 hours. If it's over a certain age, we're going to wait 48 hours. The first 4 hours are crucial. We didn't really start searching for him until that night where my partners went and got cash. We gave people money for gas to go out and help us search because we thought, what if he did try to walk home and fell in a canal on a golf course? And most of the people that helped me search that night were friends of mine and people that worked for me that came to my aid. There was no organized police search. There were no Amber Alerts. There was no National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. The media sort of showed up, and the search took 2 weeks. About the 7th day, the media was over it, and I got great advice from the county coroner who told me, you know, we do not exchange information about unidentified dead. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, your son could be dead in a morgue somewhere. We do it in Florida by voluntary basis every 6 months by mail. He said, you know, is your son in the NCIC? And I said, what the hell is that? And he said, the National Crime Information Computer. It's full of millions of cars, boats, and planes, convicted felons, and a racehorse, but no missing children, no unidentified dead. I said, I can't believe that. We put a man on the moon. You and I are going to have to call every county coroner in Florida to see if Adam's body is in the morgue. I know he's alive. Somebody good's got to have him. He said, I don't think so. He said, it's up to you. Double the reward. I said, I put $100,000 together. It's all I have. My partners, I said, at least it'll get the media back. It'll get the attention. Because guess what? There were only 3 channels in 1981. ABC, NBC, and CBS. They all turned me down. I called every one of them 10 times during the search and said, let me on, please. I need to come to New York and do this. We'll find Adam. They went, if we do it for you, we've got to do it for every other missing kid. Finally, David Hartman let me on Good Morning America 14 days later, and that was the day we found Adam's remains. His severed head was found in a canal 140 miles north of our home.
It is still so...
What a difference that he has made from 1981, where obviously the media wasn't helping, the police weren't doing everything, Amber Alerts weren't in. I mean, they weren't help for the Amber Alert. That was another tragic story. But the Centre for Missing and Exploited Children, he has campaigned, him and his wife have campaigned and changed so much for missing children. And we know that finally the media do take notice of some cases. I'm not going to say all cases because it's not always all cases. And some cases get more media attention than others, but that's a whole nother story.
So hard to hear that detail as you recount it all these years later. I know that this launched you into your life's work, which became trying to keep other people's children safe. And you mentioned NCMEC, you mentioned Amber Alerts, you mentioned Code Adam, sex registries, sex offender registries. All of these came out of this horrible, horrible tragedy. Does it give you some measure of peace to know that in your loss, other children's lives have been spared?
I think we've saved children. We've caught people that hurt children. But I have to give the credit to my beautiful, strong wife, because while I was dying of a broken heart and lost 30 pounds, could not get that hotel open. It was way over budget. We saw our life savings and our investments of many, many people that were planning on that hotel opening evaporate. She was in our garage answering the 40,000 letters that came from strangers around the country, wishing us well, mass cards, praying for Adam, but thousands of those letters were people who had runaways, non-custodial parental abductions, people who didn't get the children in custody in the divorce, who took the children and ran away, people who were just desperate for help and trying to figure out how we figured out how to do a poster, how we launched the largest search. I was intent upon finding who got Adam and killed him, and I was going to try to figure out a way to how to kill him. I was bent on revenge. I couldn't work, I couldn't eat, and this woman said, there is nothing to help missing children. I want to do something to make sure. And she said it to me one night at the lowest point of our life. She said, we forgot who the real victim is. Adam is. We're left behind. Let's make sure he didn't die in vain.
you channeled that energy and have done some amazing things. You know, most people see you as the America's Most Wanted man and maybe didn't even know this story. John, I just want to thank you for your dedication, for your candor, for the love that you have for other children. Children are safer now because of you. Thank you.
That was a really lovely story, and that obviously he was talking to WUSA 9. That was just beautiful. He's such an amazing man, and him and his wife have done some amazing things. I'm absolutely in awe of these two people. So thank you very much for your time. I know I'm not I'm not the greatest at this, but I hope that I'm getting better. And I hope you now know the story. I'll have the links below, and it's a fascinating case in the fact of following Reve and John and what they have done. He's not just the man from America's Most Wanted that had a child killed. You know, he has done some amazing things. I hope to see you next time. Thank you very much. I'm out.